by yourselves first, Lydia?
Sure. Okay, so my name is Lydia Carlie Tillis. I am a doula in the Bay Area in California. So I'm south of San Francisco is where I practice. I have a few certifications that inform the way that I practice. I started my journey to supporting families and mothers as a massage therapist. I've been a massage therapist since 2013, and then I became specialized in prenatal, perinatal, and postpartum massage in 2014, and then I took additional training in 2015 with Carol Osborne, who is known for her training around prenatal and perinatal and postpartum massage. And then in 2018, I became a doula, and I am a labor, birth, and postpartum doula. And I love babies, really, is where this has come from. And I feel like physical experience, and we don't support mothers or who with massage enough. You know, it's if you are an athlete, you are supported with a strength and conditioning coach, a massage therapist, a physical therapist. But being pregnant is as physical, I think, as doing like an Ironman or a marathon. And so the way I approach doula work is from the idea that we need to approach physically, emotionally, and intellectually. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lydia. And how about Sushi?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Sushmita Chatterjee. I'm a first-time mom, so I have a toddler who is 2 years old now, and I blog about motherhood because I feel like moms do need a tribe of their own so that we can support each other, ask each other questions, and kind of get to know how our journeys are, because every parenting journey is so different. So the purpose of me wanting to write was the fact that there were so many things I learned as a new first-time mom, and I thought that it's really a fun, exciting, as well as confusing journey. So it's important to share that with everyone. I did not have a doula, so I think this is a great opportunity that MeeTalk, in collaboration with MeeTalk, I feel like I'm honored to be able to talk to someone so an expert in their field, Lydia. So thank you for joining us.
Sure.
And I think this will be an enlightening session because I think most often, as you rightly said, that we don't realize how difficult a journey pregnancy is, and even postpartum, right? So it's important,
especially postpartum.
Exactly, to be physically and mentally fit. So I want to kickstart this discussion with my first question. You mentioned that you love babies,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So aside of that,
yeah.
What was that one thing that really motivated you to take up this profession? Because it's such a noble profession.
Oh my gosh. So I think it was when I heard or understood that after a C-section, moms are sort of expected to go back to work within 6 weeks. And as a massage therapist, you're trained to understand injury and you're trained to understand recovery and surgery. And if you have a hip replacement or any sort of joint replacement, you have a longer recovery window and you have physical therapy. But that's not the case with C-sections or birth in general. And so I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I started as a sports massage therapist. So I worked with professional football and rugby teams in my first year out of massage school. And I just saw all of the support that's given there. And then when you look at pregnancy, that same level of support isn't provided for an equally physical and very strenuous experience of giving birth. And even if you have a C-section, the recovery is as if you had major surgery. So, because it is major surgery. So that's where my passion comes from, is to wanting to fill in the gap in care and support, because there's a heavy emphasis on prenatal, go to your prenatal appointments, take your prenatal vitamins, but as soon as the baby's born, the baby is the focus. And it's not to say that the baby is important, but if parents, aren't supported, then the baby doesn't have the support they need to thrive. So I think like we need to take a step back and support parents to create a better environment for children to live and be raised in.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because so often after a baby is born, everyone forgets about the mother.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, Lydia, obviously you've been a doula for a long time. How many families have you worked with, and what has the experience been? I'm sure there would have been some great experiences, some
Right.
not so good experiences. How do you navigate through some of those challenges? Because I'm sure some of the people who have joined this would, probably want to know about
Right.
it.
So I've been a doula for 3 years. I've worked with about a dozen families from before, like conception support through postpartum support. And every family is different. I would say the most memorable family that was like also difficult for me, but also amazing that I got to be there, was supporting a family that was having a baby right before California was going to be shut down for COVID. So it was unclear if I could be there as a support person. It was unclear of how long I could stay. And my client was being induced, so we didn't know how long it was going to take for baby to arrive. And so I was with my client for 3 days in the hospital, because leaving, we didn't know if I left, if I could come back. And then it was just, it was long. And then there was just like the unknown attached to it, of like, we didn't really know what COVID was yet. And we didn't know what protocols were, how safe or unsafe it was to be in the hospital. So I think that has been, that was probably the most memorable experience with a birth client. And then I think within the last year, and so I'm coming back into doula work, because I took a long break, like a lot of doulas, because we didn't know, as the summer progressed last year, if we could be in the hospital with our clients. So a lot of people just decided not to take clients and sort of wait and see what was going to happen. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Kyo, I did see that, you've asked people to send in their questions. I would pass it on to you before I ask my next question, because in case you want to, say that out to the audience, and, anything else you have to add about the session, so that everyone is aware of.
Yeah, you can continue to ask question, and then I can pick up the question, and then
Okay.
I'm gonna share it with you.
All right, perfect. So yeah, Lydia, I mean, I know like COVID kind of threw us all off, and we did not expect that things would turn this way. Of course, as you said, that some clients, because they were not sure whether a doula will be allowed with them in the labor room or not. So, through the last 1.5 year, how many families have you dealt with, and what has been your experience specifically talking about the COVID challenges?
So I'm working with 2 families right now, and what we're doing is taking everything case by case basis, because one hospital's policy is not another hospital's policy. And so in the event that like I can't be there, we have said what we'll do is we will train your partner as much as possible to support you. And if there are any questions that you feel like during labor you are, unsure of what to do, then contact me. But we're also planning for the best in that like I can be there. So that's sort of like the compromise that we're making, is find out what the hospital policy is, knowing that that can change, and then preparing their birth partner to be as supportive with them as possible, and making sure that they have a really good written birth plan spanning all of the phases. So like, the first phase, the second phase, when the baby is born, and then if there are contingencies of like a plan B. Say you're planning for a physiological natural birth, but it looks like you might have to have an epidural, or you might have to have a C-section. Let's have the tough conversations now while you're not in a stressful situation. And then because you and your partner have talked about that, then you know what to do if that situation comes up. Because I always say, we have a plan, but baby has a separate plan. And it's a moving target, right? Like, we can say this is what you want your birth to look like, but we can't promise that that's what's going to happen either.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you said, babies have their own
Yes.
plan. So, how do you handle an unexpected birth? Like, for example, you have discussed it with the family, you've
Right.
planned it out, and then suddenly, out of the blue, something else happens. How do you kind of deal with those situations?
Deal with that. That reminds me of a birth where my client had planned for physiological birth, like natural birth, and it turns out that the baby wasn't turning. And it's not that the baby was breech, but the baby was transverse, so like across the belly. And so, we tried a few different things to encourage baby to turn, but baby didn't turn. So in that case, because I wasn't there for the birth and it had to be a planned C-section, come to find out, mom had what's called a heart-shaped uterus. So the baby was going to have difficulty turning anyways. And so I just did an extra postpartum support. And that's what we sort of discussed of like, okay, you will have had surgery. So I'll come, I can hold baby while you take a nap. I can cook food for you, like soup, something that's easy for you to reheat, because what you don't want is to have to try and, fry an egg while you're breastfeeding and also, trying to tend to your C-section scar. So that's what we did, is that we just sort of changed the focus of support from prenatal and birth to postpartum.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about, prenatal and postpartum, Lydia, why don't you walk us through, all the services that you offer?
Sure.
So that, everyone can be aware of, because sometimes I feel like when we think of doula, we only think of support in the labor room, but
Right.
that's not true, right? So,
Yeah, so every doula is different, but I would say that for me specifically, because I'm so passionate about therapeutic touch and I'm so passionate about physical support, I have 5 packages on my website, 2 of which are virtual support and 3 which are in-person hybrid, and 2 of them involve massage.
okay.
So I offer prenatal massages to like help with, your body changing before having your baby, and then postpartum to help with physical recovery from labor and delivery, but also to help with emotional support, because if for an hour postpartum you don't have to think about the baby and someone else has the baby and that moment is just for you, then I think that also helps you to like reconnect with your body after going through the physicality of delivery, because it's so intense. And then even if it's a C-section, like your body's gone through a lot, and you kind of are trying to figure out like who your body is to you, after the huge changes of pregnancy and after delivery. Your body is a place you have to relearn. And so massage, I feel like, is a great way to create a space just for that. And then also I do prenatal sessions where we talk about like, what do you want your birth to look like? Who's going to be in the room? What does pain management look like for you? What role can your partner play in support? Because I always say that, mom is the person who's in charge, then your partner is number 2, and I'm number 3. My job is to support you as a unit, and your partner knows you better than I do, and they will know what you need when you are in need of deep comfort. So if it's like you need to smell your partner's neck, or you need them to hold your hand, or you want them to hold, sit behind you while you're pushing, those are all conversations that we want to have so that you feel prepared in terms of the kind of support that will be available to you. And then postpartum support can be things like breastfeeding support. So I'm also a breastfeeding peer counselor. So I'm not a lactation consultant, which is far more education. But, I can help with things like latch. And if I feel like there are things that I don't know, then we can find a resource for you to find the support that you need. And then,
Okay.
yeah, that's a little bit of what I do and what I focus on with my clients.
That's amazing. And that's a lot actually, because, as you rightly said, I think the key is having support. And I mean, I remember my labor. I had a 30-hour long labor. So, it was so intense, and it's so
Right.
important that at that time, whether, you're doing the right thing or you're doing the wrong thing, or at least someone who is an expert to be able to guide you through
Right.
that thing.
Right.
And also postpartum. I mean, breastfeeding is something I don't think people talk about too much pre-pregnancy,
No.
pre-delivery, and you figure out so many things on the go. And
Yeah.
definitely having, I'm sure people who have had you by their side would have had a better experience than someone who didn't know.
Thank you.
To be able to do. Because you were talking about the services, Lydia, like, would you be willing to share, like, what is the fee that you charge, or, at least a range in which,
Sure.
people, if they want to have you?
So after COVID started, I did raise my prices because traditionally I would have had like a backup for myself. If I'm at a birth for very long, then I would ask someone to partner with me to be my backup doula so that I'm not exhausted in supporting my client. But because there's a limitation of who can be in the room, I've raised my prices because now I'm, going to be exerting myself more. So my prices range from $1,800 to $3,600. And that includes prenatal, massage and postpartum support. And what changes in the prices is like how many sessions of massage or how many sessions of postpartum support you get in your package. What all packages include is birth planning, the prenatal sessions, and then partner coaching, essentially, and then labor support, whether that's virtual or in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah. And I don't know if it has happened ever, but what if two people go into labor at the same time, and you are both trying to support both of them?
Right.
Has that ever happened?
No, that's not happened to me, thankfully. Mostly because I try not to have clients' due dates overlap too much. But some doulas work in a collective where there's 3 of them together, and so and then they rotate who's on call, sort of thing. But yeah, I try to keep it so that I have 2 clients, maybe 1 or 2 clients due in a month, and that they're sort of at least 2 weeks apart from each other. Yeah.
Okay. And another question that, I wanted to know was, what if you don't reach on time, or someone has gone into labor or someone has given birth before you arrive?
Right. So
how do you handle those situations?
In my contract, there's in my contract, there's a clause for that. So if for some reason the birth is very quick and I don't get there in time, then we add postpartum support again as compensation for that. While I have not had that happen, I've had very quick births. Like a client called me about 3:30 in the morning. I got to the hospital about 4:30, and I was on my way home by 7.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was very fast. And before we could even talk about pain management with the nurses, like we were already into active labor, and the baby was like, I'm here. And so that was that. Yeah.
Okay. So, if someone is planning to get your services, what is it that, you would suggest them to kind of think through before they can finalize that, okay, this is the person I want to go with? What are the things you feel that as as a mother who's about to deliver, or even as parents, like it could be the husband and wife taking the decision together, what are the things that they need to look out for when selecting a doula?
A few things. One, I would say, unless you are super sure, I wouldn't always go with the first person that you interview. I would try and interview a couple of people so that you can get a feel for how your view of birth and their view of birth aligns. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is look at your budget, and if look at your budget, and if you're like, I don't know if I can afford this, then I would say turn your baby shower into a doula fund focus. Because oftentimes you're given things that you don't need for the baby or doesn't fit. So if people really want to gift you something, ask them to donate to your doula fund to help support you, because that's really where the support is going to come from. People can bring diapers all day long, and they can bring really cute clothes, but you don't know how big baby will be when they come out. So sometimes those clothes don't get worn. But you're going to have to buy clothes anyways. But the doula experience is something that can really change how you feel through your pregnancy and afterwards into postpartum. And then I think I would also make sure that your doula understands any sort of like cultural specific traditions around birth, because we have been giving birth outside of hospitals longer than we have in hospitals, and every culture has a prenatal and postpartum tradition, and making sure that your doula understands and respects that is also, I think, important, because my family's from the Caribbean, and we have like a fourth trimester sort of line, like, only specific people are allowed into the house, and like, mom is cared for by family members, and she, is fed specific foods to keep her energy and to help her with breastfeeding. And so I think all of that is important too. Not that you need to have someone who's the same culture as yours, but someone who understands your culture. Yeah, I think that is important.
Okay. Yeah, I think, that is really critical, because, there are so many emotions and experiences you're going through postpartum. I think if someone understands where you're coming from or what is the reason behind, you saying something or wanting certain things the way they are,
exactly.
It really. Lydia, one question I had was, you obviously were talking about massages and how important it is postpartum. Can you walk us through that service of yours? A little more about, what is it that you provide, and how do you think that's helpful for moms who have just delivered their babies?
Sure. So if a mom is just delivered vaginally, and you can end up pushing in a variety of positions, right? You can be squatting, you can have your legs up, and sometimes your body is like, the force of delivery isn't distributed evenly through your body. So you might have like a strain to your inner thigh muscles, or you might have where your glutes feel very sore from after birth, and that can sort of be something that you're feeling for weeks after. So I've worked with a mom who had a strain from pushing. I have worked with someone who had a C-section, so like 6 weeks after, doing like scar tissue therapy for them. There's also like something that they call nursing neck. So you're looking at baby while you are breastfeeding or chest feeding, and so it's like you are so focused that like, your neck and shoulders have a lot of tension. So all of that in postpartum support and postpartum recovery is something that I would focus on. And then also just focusing on helping you to feel more in your body, right? Because things are happening that we kind of talk about, we don't talk about. We don't talk about, breast milk leaking. We don't talk about, postpartum bleeding, and so, and, how tired you're going to be because the baby is on their schedule. So postpartum massage can also support rest, which is really important, and also with stress management, right? If you don't have a lot of support around, having someone come to be at the house for an hour while you have a massage means that you don't have to worry about the baby, and you can just think about yourself.
So true. That's wonderful to hear. Talking about labor and birth, can you tell me a little bit about what are the techniques you follow specifically during labor and birthing phase?
Yes. So breathing exercises, which we all see on television with the which is not isn't always the case, but reminding my client to breathe when they are having a contraction is a big deal. because your breath is the first thing that it tells your nervous system whether you are safe or that you feel like you're in danger. So breathing is a big part of that. Applying pressure to the outside of the hips, so like this way, it's called counter pressure. So it gives your brain a distraction while you're going through a contraction. Applying heat is another thing. So if, depending on where, because people feel contractions in different places, depending on where you feel contractions, applying a heat pack. And hospitals are really helpful with like supplying them. So when a nurse comes in, do you need anything? I always ask for more heat packs. So applying heat packs against like the sacrum is, and like the the back of the lower back is good. Warm towels, like a warm compress, is also helpful. And then aromatherapy, because when you are in the active, like pushing and before that, like hard laboring, you are in what is called the hindbrain, like your primal brain, which is concerned mostly with your safety. And so scent is an easy way to soothe and support the nervous system during that time. And so I kind of talk to my clients about that, like, what are scents that you enjoy? Because not everyone loves lavender, right? So applying that to like a towel, and then it's something that they can use as they need while they're laboring. And then helping to keep the lights low is also helpful. And then music. And we can talk about like a playlist, either, I know my very first client, her and her husband created a playlist for her birth. So these are all different things that the whole point is for you to feel supported while you're doing something really, really challenging, to help manage pain and discomfort, and then to make sure that you feel safe.
Good. This reminds me, like, I know music is such a powerful tool to just soothe your mind, because I remember during my labor, I wanted, some sort of music to be played. And then I had like a little crystal. So we pray to a god called Lord Ganesha. So I had like this little crystal Ganesha idol, which I just kept in front of me, which kind of helped me just focus
exactly
away from the pain to something more positive. That would kind of ease you into the process. So
that's beautiful.
Good. So some of these things, Lydia, do you bring it with you when you come to come to support someone, or is that something that you ask the family to get it with them?
I bring LED candles, so that when we turn the lights down, there's still some sort of light source. I bring the essential oils. I bring a diffuser if we want to have that, and I bring a little Bluetooth boombox with me, and then we can just pick, a station or something like on Pandora or Spotify, and we play that during, and like in the times where you're sort of waiting for the contractions to get closer together, I sometimes dance with my clients so that they can just sort of like, pass the time. But also the dancing is really helpful to keep your hips moving, right? Like you want your hips to still feel mobile and lubricated because you're in motion.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you, I'm sure there are many partners who do not understand how to support, during the labor phase. How do you help them understand, their role in delivery and even postpartum?
It's a great question, because oftentimes I think when partners say, okay, we're going to have a doula, they feel like they have to step back. And my job is to push them forward and say, no, this is your baby too, and this is your birth experience too, because when this baby comes, you are also going to be a parent after not being a parent if it's the first time. So think about what you want your experience to be in the birthing room. So we talk about everything from, do you want to cut the cord, to, if mom and baby need to be separated, are you going to go with the baby or are you going to stay with mom? So those are sort of like the hard questions to ask. On the other hand, I have this really great deck called the birth deck that a doula created that shows all different types of birth support positions. So either standing behind mom and gently lifting the belly so that she can feel like a little more weightless. I show them how to do counter pressure, right? If I need to support mom in a different way, then they can do that part. I ask them to be in charge of the birth plan. So because you never know how long you'll be there. So if there's a change of nurses, then their job is the minute the new nurse comes on, hi, my name is, and I'm the partner, here's our birth plan.
Right.
So it keeps them actively participating in birth, even if they're not the ones laboring at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think one key message is don't sleep when your wife is
Right.
sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're resting, they should rest too. But but otherwise, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Not when she's screaming in pain.
No. I don't know who could sleep through that, if that's at all.
That's true. Since you were talking about, nurses coming in and, changing their shift, obviously, how do you navigate through that relationship with hospital staff? Because I'm sure, there are nurses 24/7 who are there to support the parents. But of course, the role that you play is a little more a step forward than what they are supporting with. So how do you navigate that relationship with the hospital staff when you're supporting someone?
Well, I'm always sure to introduce myself, say, hi, I'm the doula. And then I will sort of ask, as I'm asking them where things are, like, where can I get towels? Where can I get a bucket? Where can I get, heat packs? I'm also forming a relationship with them at that time. And then I am sort of the voice of what if is what happens. So like a nurse will come in and say, this is what we think we should do, kind of thing. And then I will say, what if we give them 5 minutes to talk about this? Is that okay? Because I don't want the nurses to feel like I'm trying to keep them from doing their job. But I also want my client to have the time and space to make decisions without feeling pressured because the nurse is standing right there. The other thing I sometimes will just ask nurses, like, how long they've been doing it. How long have they been labor and delivery nurses? And that's sort of in the time when nothing active is happening. And it's nice to start to have that conversation. And some of them will share, like, I've had a doula and I think that, doulas are great. And I'm so glad that you're here for this patient. And so I think that's sort of what is what I find to be helpful to create a relationship in that short time.
Yeah, because it's not like you don't have days to build that relationship.
Exactly.
So, okay, good to hear that. Lydia, my next question is, and this is kind of taking off from what you said earlier, like, there are obviously certain things that the parents prefer versus certain things that they don't know about, and they go by your experience and your knowledge. So do you kind of take a step forward in those situations where, for example, something like, should I go for an epidural or should I get induced? I don't know. I can Google and find out, but I don't know if that's the right thing to do. So do you kind of provide those, like, do you lean towards a certain thing versus something else based on the experience that you have, or how do you deal with those kind of questions?
I always try to provide as much education about options as possible, because one of the mantras that was taught to me when I was in doula training was that it is your patient's baby, your patient's birth, your patient's body, or your client's body. So I will never say to someone, this is what I would do, because I'm not them. But what I will say to them is ask questions. What are all of your options? Because oftentimes the education around birth that we hear is natural or epidural. There's no in between, but in fact there is. You can have nitrous oxide, which is basically laughing gas, to help you through the hard parts. You can have IV or oral pain medication while you're laboring, But that's never really presented at the beginning. It's either natural or epidural.
Yeah.
And so I try to say, and I always say, ask your doctor what your options are, so that they can hear it directly from the doctor.
Okay.
And right now with COVID, some hospitals are not allowing nitrous oxide because it has to be inhaled. And, but in past births that I've attended, it's really helpful because it is an immediate pain management option that whoever is in labor has control over, versus the epidural, it depends on how it's administered. You can ask them to sort of lower the epidural so that when you're pushing, you have more control and sensation. But then it all depends on how the epidural takes, and sensation to one side versus the other. So yeah, I know what I would want for my own birth, but I can't make that decision because I don't know. When I'm working with someone, I don't know all of their life experience around birth, and I don't know their life experience around their body. So all I want to support is them having the best birth for them emotionally, physically, intellectually.
Okay. So basically arming them with enough knowledge and information so they can make the decision for themselves.
Exactly. So because, another thing that's a big decision is circumcision. If your baby is born with a penis, do you want them to be circumcised or not? And cultural considerations are something that have to be thought about. Is your partner circumcised? So then the baby and dad and baby can understand each other that way. And people worry, oh, is my baby going to be in pain? And so it's all of these things where I'm I can't answer that for you, but this is a question you should think about now, before a baby is born, and not when you've just given birth and you're tired and you're so excited to see your baby, and now someone's asking you to make a decision that's really important to your baby's life. So let's talk about this 3 or 4 months before that, kind of thing. And that's how I feel about all of the birth options, right?
Right.
How many people do you want in the room? Do you want to birth at a hospital that has students? And if so, do you care if students are allowed to come in? What do you want for pain management? Who do you want to be there? Because with big families, there's a lot of cultural boundaries that you don't want to overstep, but also remembering that it's your birth. So I come from a big family. My mom is no longer with us, but if she was, I wouldn't want her to be in the room because it would make me nervous. So I would say, you can be in the waiting room and you can come in as soon as the baby is born. But when I'm in pain and I'm doing this, I can't have you there. So having those conversations early too, because then you don't have to say, Mom, I don't want you there, the day it's happening. And then your mom is emotional because, oh, my baby's having a baby, so have that conversation before, so that there's no big emotional reaction that then makes your birth stressful.
Lydia, I wish I knew you when I was deliver, because I never thought about these things and no one guided us, because obviously we were first-time parents. So I had my mom with me in the labor room for 30 hours. And honestly, now and in hindsight, I look at it, it was a very difficult experience for her, more than me, because seeing your baby in so much pain, it's not easy.
No.
So I feel like I've scarred her for life.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have had her in there. But people don't know about it. And I'm glad that you have those conversations with your clients beforehand, because it's really important. Because it's not just the birthing part, right? There are so many things related to it that people forget about. So
yes.
So I wish I had found you earlier.
Oh, I wish so too. I mean, if you have another one, I'm always around, and I do travel. I have gone to New Mexico to support a birth before.
Awesome.
Yes.
Good to know that.
Yeah.
So for the benefit of everyone who is attending this live, say if people decide to go with you, what does the process look like after that? How long, how soon do you start interacting with the parents? And after the birth, for how long are you there around with them? If you can just walk through your process, and then what does the structure look like as far as the interaction goes?
Right. I've had client, so I prefer that like we start to have the conversation in the second trimester, because the third trimester goes by like this. All of a sudden it's time. And also because due dates are fluid. You know, babies can show up 2 weeks before, they can show up 2 weeks after. So the time you think you have isn't necessarily the time you have. So second trimester, I think I think first trimester is when you should decide if you want a doula. Then you can start to plan and budget for that. Second trimester, I think, is when you should start to interview a doula.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing would be to have an interview, just to talk, to see if, am I a good fit for you? Are you a good fit for me? Am I available for the time that you are planning to give birth? And then from there, I will send you information to say, look at the packages and see what's in your budget and what you would like. I ask for 60% of the fee when we sign the contract, and then 40% at what's called the rest of it at what's called the on-call period. So 2 weeks before your birth, I am now available to you 24 hours a day, because at that point, baby can arrive at any moment. So I am dedicated to supporting you from that time through birth.
Okay.
And in that time before, we have the prenatal visits, we have the planning sessions, and we have massage if that's part of the package that you've chosen. Then at the hospital, I'm with you as long as I need to be, barring any large emergencies or unexpected events. And then I'll probably stay about an hour after baby is born, and then I'll leave so that you and your partner and baby can bond. And then I will contact you probably within 2 days to set up a postpartum session to just sort of come by the house, process with you how the birth went, and do any support that you need at that time. So if you need some breastfeeding support, or if you just need me to hold the baby so you can sleep, if you want me to give baby a bottle so that you can, read for an hour, just rest, I can prepare a light meal for you at that time. And then I always tell my clients, I'm going to come here and support you, and a lot of people are also going to want to come and see you. Create a little chore jar or chart. So when someone comes to see you, they wash the dishes, or they put the dishes in the dishwasher, or they put a load of laundry in for you, so that they're coming to see you, but they're also helping. And and then that's essentially it. And then depending on whether or not you're having postpartum massages, we'll probably wait till about 4 weeks beforehand, before having the first 4 to 6 weeks before the first postpartum massage.
Okay. And you were mentioning about, you could cook for them, or you can hold the baby. Are these like additional services that you charge for, or is it part of the package?
It's all part of the package, and I make it clear in the contract that like my job isn't to come and clean. If your partner is going to clean, then because my whole job is to support you. So whatever that looks like, if that is holding baby, feeding baby, swaddling the baby, or just sitting with you, to talk about your birth and how you're doing, because that's important too. Because often when people come to see you, they're really like, oh, how's the baby? Oh my gosh, the baby's so cute. But is anyone asking you, like, how are you feeling about your birth? Are you sleeping? Do you feel rested? How are you doing emotionally? Because there's that 3-day, like, emotion, like the hormones drop 3 to 4 days after. And so it's helpful to have someone check in with you emotionally, because I don't believe that doulas are going to, eradicate postpartum depression, but I do feel like there is specific scenarios and environments in which postpartum depression is more likely to happen, and supporting emotionally after birth changes the environment in which that could occur. So sure, it will happen, but maybe the severity will be different, right? So that's really the focus. And so it's more like nourishing mind, body, and spirit. And so if, in that case, like talking about the hard emotional aspects of it, supporting you physically if you need help, like with repositioning or something like that. And then talking to you as a person, not just as a new parent, right? Like
Right.
you have a separate identity from being a
Right.
mom or a dad. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad, Lydia, you brought up postpartum depression, because I think in that phase, sometimes it just helps if someone is there to just listen to you, right? Like,
Yes.
I may not need answers, or I may not need solutions, but I just want someone to hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, that's something that you really said, that, it's the environment you create that it may not remove it completely, but it definitely has chances to reduce it.
Yes. And I think COVID made that more severe, right? Because people are being isolated. And so having that emotional support, even if it's via Zoom, for someone to just sit and talk with you and not be focused on the baby is super important, because that helps you to feel seen outside of your parenthood. And that helps you to feel like you're not as isolated in the bubble of me and baby and partner, so that like you
True.
feel connected to the outside world.
True.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned, Lydia, that you are available on call. So is that like 2 weeks before
Yes.
the due date? So is that like 24/7, whenever someone needs you, they could just call you?
Yes, because at that point, baby could arrive at any time. So
Right.
when I'm under contract, those 2 weeks before, I am dedicated to being available to you 24/7. Because you might be like, oh, I think my water broke, but I'm not sure. Or I think I'm having contractions. Can you talk to me about that? And so that's why, and that can happen at
Okay.
any time. So I'm not going to expect you to wait until 9 o'clock in the morning to call me, right?
Yeah.
But before that time, then it's regular business hours of like, oh, send me an email, send me a text, send me, call me, leave me a voicemail, and then we'll talk, at your next prenatal session. But in the on-call period, it is 24/7. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. This was such a wonderful and enlightening conversation, and I think I got to learn so many things that I didn't know
Yay.
about. Um, so just, Lydia, before we wrap up, I mean, would you want to share with everyone, like, what is the website, where if they want your services, they could go to, and if
Sure.
they want to read reviews, are those available on your website, or how do they go about it if someone wants to
Sure.
hire you for that?
So my practice is called SageFemme Wellness, and my website is sagefemmewell.com. It's the same as my Instagram handle. It's also the same on Facebook. And if you would love to connect with me, I would love to connect with you. There's a phone number on my website and email. You can text me, send me an email. And if you just have questions, we can talk about that too. I would love to connect with anyone, who, because we're now in this virtual world, I at first I was like, how can you be a doula virtually? But there's a lot of conversations that you can have without being face to face about and feeling supported and planning for birth. So, yeah.
Awesome. It was a great talk. Thank you so much for your time.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it very much. So to be honest, this is our first time, and then I assigned, MC, but she couldn't join.
Right.
And literally, I needed to MC today. So she was the best person.
Yes. It was so nice to talk to you, and you asked great questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was great talking to you as well. I mean, yeah, it was wonderful.
I want to upload this video. So, Sushi, do you wanna share your information with audience? Something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, what? I didn't get you. Yeah.
Something that you want to share with audience.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, as I said, I'm Sushmita Chatterjee. I blog. I recently started blogging actually after I became a mother, because as I said, I just wanted to share stories and experiences and the fun and exciting journey that I was going through, so that I could help other moms, who were probably going through the same phase, or moms have already been through that phase but trying to relate to it. My background has been in writing and designing. So by profession, I'm a learning and design profession, learning and design person. Before that, I was a journalist. So, asking questions, I think, comes naturally to me. Yeah, and I always love to write about anything and everything that is close to my heart. And I think since I've become a mother, I had a few friends who were really supportive through my pregnancy journey and through motherhood, through the highs and lows of motherhood. And I feel like not everyone is fortunate enough to have that. So considering that we have an online platform, and Lydia, you mentioned about Zoom, I think that's another great way, which we've obviously everyone knew there was a virtual platform, but I think we've discovered the benefits of it more during COVID. So I feel like, yeah, as long as you have people to hear you out, sometimes just talk to you, listen to your concerns, that really helps, put yourself in the right mindset. And parenting is not easy, but you can get through it when everyone else is going through the same.
Exactly.
So, to be honest, today, one of the ambassador mom, Mara, was gonna join, but she was a little busy today. So then, she also told me, she's feeling separated, each mom, and then it's quite difficult to make group to discuss and talk, and then not so good chance to meet each other face to face. So then now I'm thinking how to help parents to meet each other. So then today I asked you guys first, and then so I hope this event is gonna chance to meet each other, and something help for mothers. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a community. We just need to build a community, I feel like.
Exactly.
Share and talk. Yeah.
Yeah, because traditionally we would be in multi-generational households, right? And so your community would already exist, but we've shifted in, the last few generations to being more independent. And so finding community is not as easy. And so friends are a great way to create that community. And also, as Kyo was saying, is, creating opportunities for parents to connect, moms to connect. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were saying that you come from you come from a big family. The same goes with me. I'm from India, and we have big families,
right.
and when you're there, obviously you have so much support and help, but we are all living at different places because of our work requirements,
right.
and that kind of takes away a lot from that support that you have if you were with your parents, or you were around people who you have grown up with. So I think that's probably another reason why I really wanted to start writing about it, because I kind of delivered in a foreign land where I didn't know many people, and obviously I had some friends, and my parents, I was fortunate enough my parents could fly down and be with me during that phase, but it was just for a few months, and after that obviously they had to go back.
Right.
So yeah, I think I know, Lydia, you were saying, please do go and check out my blog page, which is, on Instagram, I blog at Lazy Storyteller Mama. So I just like to tell stories, and that's why my handle is about being a storyteller.
I love it.
So I wanna try to upload your contents to our website and other things. Then I'm researching how to do that with the technology. Yeah.
Right.
So my specialty is technology, the AI things, and developing website. So yeah, but I felt when I talked to mothers and specialists, so they are some troubles in IT things. So now I'm thinking how I can help you guys. So you guys have trouble, let me know. So I want to think how to resolve your problems with the technology things. Yeah, so this is,
I would love that. Thank you, Kyo.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me,
Thank you.
by the way, thank you, Lydia and Sushi today. So, next time, a little bit, I'm gonna think how to improve it. So, and then I'm gonna share my improving idea.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Sounds
had a good
good.
time, and
Me too.
I'm guessing this will upload to each of our accounts. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Maybe.
So, this video is recorded.
Oh, great.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna share.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
You know.
Thank you both for your time.
Yeah, thank
Thank you.
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.